Arch Manning has finally made a decision on his commitment, and that would be the Texas Longhorns over Georgia and Alabama. He just visited there last weekend. We had previously said on this channel that Texas was a favorite. There were signs sent in from our subscribers with Arch bringing the Longhorn shoes to practice. Then one of his favorite targets on his high school team, tight end Will Randall, committed to Texas just a few days ago, so they'll have that chemistry already locked in when the time to play college football comes. But we also listened to what both Arch and his coach Nelson Stewart were saying about Texas and Steve Sarkisian. And those nuggets of information, they provided us the real reason why Arch would choose a program like Texas, who had 0 players selected in this year's draft, over a championship machine like Alabama or the defending champ Georgia Bulldogs. Most recently, The Athletic had a story talking about how Steve Sarkisian and quarterbacks coach AJ Milwee have excelled in creating a strong relationship with Arch. Stewart even joked that he speaks with Milwee more than his own wife. So when I read that the other day, my mind was ringing with Texas. Stewart continued saying Texas is in because they work tirelessly. Now let's go back and listen to what Stewart said before that. He said, Coach Steve Sarkisian is far and away one of the most authentic coaches I've ever talked to. I think when you talk about all of the Zooms all the time, he's really the only head coach. I remember the first time I saw him. He's always available for a question and for text. He formulated a real relationship. To me, I think he is a quarterback genius. Just the things he notices from footwork to drops, his passion and attention to detail, even talking to him about play calling and how he controls the pace and all the things he does. He's definitely one of the best offensive minds in the country, and he's a really good quarterback coach. And let's not forget my theory back when Stewart would bring up Texas after a reporter asked about Georgia. Let's listen to what I had to say. And remember earlier in this video when Stewart said that Arch loved his visit to Georgia? Well, that interview took place immediately after Arch's visit to Athens, and there's a little more to that quote. Without any prompting, Stewart decided to throw in Texas as well. Here's what he said. Arch goes to Georgia, he's going to love it. He goes to Texas, he's going to love it. Out of nowhere, with the Texas visit still a month away, Stewart decides to bring up Texas. And it wasn't like Texas was the next visit either. Could that be yet another hint towards Texas? Now, that's a theory I'm willing to run with. There's 2 different ways to look at this, because obviously Stewart is a big fan of Texas and Sarkisian. The first one is how Stewart is in Arch's ear every day. I don't think he means to sway Arch, at least not purposefully, but I think it's impossible when you're that involved to not let your opinion affect what you say at least a little. Arch would look at his coach for advice, and clearly if there's anything being asked about Texas, Stewart is going to go above and beyond for Sarkisian. And the other way to look at this is Stewart is just parroting what Arch and the Manning family feel. The family has been hesitant to give out many details to the public, but Coach Stewart seems to be far more willing to give his thoughts on what's going on. It's not really a stretch to say outside Arch's parents, Stewart probably knows better than anyone on how Arch actually feels. He's been in those Zoom calls with Arch and college coaches, and obviously they're in the office or on the field together every single day. The truth about Arch Manning and his commitment is that Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian want him more than anyone else. And you can bet Arch and his family know that as well. The question is, does the idea of an easier path to a championship at a place like Alabama beat out the instinctual human element of feeling wanted? Obviously, Nick Saban wants Arch, but he isn't going out of his way like Kiffin and Sarkisian. Kiffin pulls off the humorous social media follower thing while Sarkisian becomes good buddies with Arch's high school coach. There are multiple things those two are doing that no other coaching staff is, and that might make a difference in the end. And while many people were doubting Arch going to Texas, here's what one Rivals analyst had said. Texas absolutely has a realistic shot with Manning, and the vibe I get is that anyone who thinks Texas is playing second fiddle is underestimating the Longhorns' chances. Manning and his camp are never going to tip their hands too much, but he did just spend multiple days in Austin, and those who spent time around him felt like the Longhorns are in a pretty good spot in this one. Steve Sarkisian's reputation for developing quarterbacks has to help UT's chances, as does the fact that Manning has already struck up a friendship with some players that Texas is recruiting. If we go back and listen to what David Cutcliffe, who is very close to the Manning family, what he said was this: "If I'm recruiting Arch Manning, and I am not, I want boots on the ground. I want it to be all about real relationships. Knowing Cooper and Ellen and Arch as well as I do, that's where they're looking. You look for trust in any relationship, right? I think that's going to be the pivotal part of that one. In recruiting a Manning, the truth is the most important aspect. Don't act. They do their checks and balances, pros and cons, and if they got the truth, then you've got a real shot at maybe them playing for you. If you don't speak honestly and speak the truth, you're not going to sign Arch Manning." Now, we can expect plenty of skill players lining up to play with Arch at Texas. Although NIL deals may not be very important to Arch, they will be for other players. And with the spotlight on Texas for the next several years, you know players are going to want that money while also playing with an extremely talented quarterback. So sorry if this video was a bit jumbled with things, but I wanted to get something meaty out quickly, so I figured the best way to do that was pulling important things from past videos. Let me know what you think of Arch's commitment. Is he making a mistake, or will this turn the Texas program around? Remember, Texas also has Quinn Ewers lined up before Arch as well.
Does this help Texas get all their top players now? Grace, you're one of our national recruiting people now. One of Arch Manning's teammates did recently commit to Texas before this. What does Arch Manning's commitment mean for Texas in its approach to future recruits in the rest of this class now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, again, we don't really know where Arch's head is at right now because he has kept things so quiet. But a lot of times you hear from these top quarterbacks or these top recruits who say, I want to get my commitment taken care of so I can start recruiting other people to this class. And I won't be surprised at all if that's a role Arch takes on. But I mean, look, if you're any offensive lineman in the country, if you're any wide receiver in the country, you're interested in the possibility of playing with Arch Manning. So yeah, I mean, I think the domino effect is a very real thing in recruiting. Like you mentioned, Will Randall, his teammate, just committed to Texas. They visited together. I think that's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I mean, Texas coaches obviously still have to go out and do it. You still have to recruit. But I think their jobs just got a lot easier. I mean, Arch Manning just gives you instant credibility with all these kids that want to play alongside of him.